The world is holding its breath. From bustling city squares to quiet family homes, people everywhere are glued to their screens, anxiously awaiting the next headline. The sense of uncertainty is palpable, as if the entire globe is suspended in a moment of collective anticipation. A potential face-to-face meeting between U.S. President Donald Trump and Russian President Vladimir Putin is just days away, carrying the weight of a brutal war and the future of global stability. The stakes could not be higher, as the world's most powerful leaders prepare to confront each other across the negotiating table. Their decisions will ripple far beyond the walls of any summit room, shaping the fate of nations and the lives of millions. This isn't just another photo op, it's a high-stakes negotiation where millions of lives hang in the balance. Every handshake, every glance, every word exchanged could tip the scales toward peace or plunge the world deeper into conflict. The pressure is immense, and the world's eyes are fixed on what comes next. Every word and gesture is under scrutiny. Can this meeting pull the world back from the brink? Journalists, analysts, and citizens alike are dissecting every detail, searching for signs of hope or warning. The atmosphere is electric, charged with both fear and the faint possibility of a breakthrough. Trump aims to follow with a trilateral summit, bringing Ukrainian President Zelensky to the table, putting the U.S. at the center of peace efforts. This bold move could open new channels for dialogue, offering a rare chance for compromise and understanding. The world wonders. Can these leaders find common ground, or will old grievances and new ambitions stand in the way? The outcome could either forge a path to ceasefire or deepen a new Cold War. The echoes of history are unmistakable, as memories of past divisions and conflicts resurface. Yet, amid the ruins and uncertainty, there is a fragile hope that diplomacy might prevail where force has failed. The conflict in Ukraine has caused immense suffering and global disruption, making this potential breakthrough a fragile glimmer of hope. Families have been torn apart, cities reduced to rubble, and millions displaced. The world aches for relief, for a sign that peace is possible, even in the darkest of times. Yet skepticism remains. Deep mistrust and clashing personalities make resolution elusive. The path to peace is littered with obstacles, from personal rivalries to conflicting national interests. Many wonder if these leaders can overcome their differences, or if the cycle of hostility will simply continue. The world is watching, not as a spectator but as a stakeholder in a drama whose final act is unwritten. In living rooms, offices, and refugee camps, people wait, hoping that this moment on the edge might become the turning point the world so desperately needs. This summit is the result of a tense, accelerated diplomatic dance. Direct peace talks between Russia and Ukraine resumed in May 2025, but violence persisted. The real momentum came on August 6, when Trump's envoy met Putin in Moscow, signaling serious intent. That same day, Trump imposed a 25% tariff on Indian imports for buying Russian oil, flexing U.S. economic muscle. Trump briefed European leaders, keeping allies informed but not directly involved. The key, a Friday deadline for Russia to agree to a ceasefire or face severe new U.S. sanctions. This ultimatum has turned diplomacy into a frantic race against time. Meanwhile, secondary sanctions are expected, and China faces tariff threats if it continues buying Russian oil. The U.S. is orchestrating a multi-pronged strategy, diplomatic, economic, and political pressure converging at once. At the heart of this high-stakes maneuvering are three leaders, each with their own ambitions, fears, and visions for the future. Their goals are not just different, they are often fundamentally at odds, making compromise both urgent and elusive. For Donald Trump, this moment is a unique opportunity. He wants to end the war in a way that reasserts American leadership on the world stage, showcasing his deal-making skills and ability to deliver results where others have failed. Trump believes that personal diplomacy, backed by economic leverage, can force a breakthrough. He's also keenly aware that a foreign policy win could boost his standing at home, especially as he eyes the next election. Vladimir Putin, meanwhile, is determined to secure Russia's interests and maintain his grip on power. He cannot afford to look weak or as if he's bowing to U.S. pressure. Instead, he's searching for an exit that preserves Russia's strategic gains in Ukraine, while also keeping his domestic audience convinced of his strength and resolve. For Putin, the stakes are not just about territory, they're about legacy and survival. For Volodymyr Zelensky, the stakes are existential. His top priority is the survival and sovereignty of Ukraine. He's deeply wary of being betrayed in the fine print of any deal, knowing that even small concessions could have devastating consequences for his country's future. Zelensky must balance the hopes of his people for peace with the harsh reality that any compromise could be seen as a defeat. Each leader faces immense domestic and geopolitical pressures, with their every move scrutinized by allies, rivals, and the global media. The world is watching, and the margin for error is razor-thin. Trump wants a quick, decisive win that he can claim as his own. Putin wants to project unwavering strength and control. Zelensky wants a just and lasting peace for his people. The summit's success depends on whether these conflicting ambitions can be reconciled, even temporarily, in a narrow and volatile space where trust is scarce. Around the world, millions hope that the desire to avoid further escalation and suffering will outweigh the powerful forces pulling these leaders apart. Each is walking a tightrope, balancing national interest, personal ambitions, and the immense global consequences of their decisions. The stakes are existential for Ukraine, reputational for Trump, and strategic for Putin. The outcome will shape not just their own futures, but the fate of millions. The question remains, can their interests align even briefly to stop the bloodshed and offer a glimmer of hope for peace? Diplomacy is backed by an aggressive economic strategy. The U.S. aims to make the war financially unbearable for Russia and its partners. New, sweeping sanctions are threatened, targeting entire sectors of Russia's economy. The Friday deadline is a clear ultimatum: comply or face economic devastation. The U.S. is also targeting third-party countries. India was hit with tariffs for buying Russian oil, sending a warning to others. China is next in line, facing tariff threats if it doesn't curb Russian oil purchases. This campaign forces nations to choose isolate Russia or face U.S. economic might. The risk retaliation, global economic instability, and a possible anti-U.S. bloc. The administration bets that economic pain will force a breakthrough where dialogue alone has failed. The world is about to see if that gamble pays off. Europe watches with anxiety and hope as the U.S. takes the lead in high-stakes negotiations. European nations, after a year of supporting Ukraine, now find themselves sidelined as Trump pursues direct talks. This exclusive approach is a double-edged sword: relief at U.S. engagement, but concern over being excluded. European security is tied to the outcome, yet decisions may be made without their input. There's fear that a quick deal could sacrifice long-term security for a short-term win. For Ukraine, dependence on U.S. support is both a strength and a vulnerability. As focus shifts to a U.S.-centric track, Kyiv must ensure any peace is just and lasting. The stakes for Europe and Ukraine are immense even if they're not at the table. While leaders negotiate, the war's brutality continues unabated. Recent peace talks have coincided with Russia's heaviest air attacks, signaling it negotiates from strength. Strikes on Kyiv and elsewhere are calculated to increase leverage, pressuring Ukraine to concede. Russia's opening offer may be a limited moratorium on airstrikes, far less than Ukraine and the U.S. demand. Ukraine fights back, targeting Russian oil refineries to disrupt the Kremlin's war machine. The violence on the ground makes trust and compromise even harder. Every new attack deepens wounds and hardens resolve. The military and diplomatic tracks are inseparable. Battlefield realities shape the prospects for peace. Official statements from Washington and Moscow are cautious, strategic, and ambiguous. The U.S. frames itself as open but not desperate, putting the onus on Russia. Secretary of State Rubio tempers expectations, warning of obstacles ahead. The Kremlin confirms talks but remains vague, projecting strength and engagement. Behind the scenes, Russian insiders insist Putin won't yield to U.S. ultimatums, believing Russia holds the upper hand. They claim new sanctions will have limited impact, reinforcing a narrative of resilience. Both sides are posturing for advantage, even as real negotiations unfold. The world sees only glimpses of the true diplomatic chess game underway. The world stands at a fork in the road as the ceasefire deadline approaches. The choices made in the coming days will not only determine the fate of Ukraine, but will also send ripples across continents, affecting millions of lives. The tension is palpable, and the stakes could not be higher. One path leads to a historic summit, a fragile ceasefire, and the beginning of a long and difficult peace process. If leaders can find common ground, it could mark the start of rebuilding trust, opening borders, and allowing families to return home. The world would watch as hope is cautiously restored, and the first steps toward reconciliation are taken. The other path is far darker. No deal, new sanctions, and a dramatic escalation of economic and geopolitical conflict. Markets could tumble, alliances may fracture, and ordinary people would bear the brunt of renewed hostilities. The consequences would be felt not just in Ukraine, but in every corner of the globe. Yet, the most likely outcome may be something in between, a partial agreement, or perhaps an extension for more talks. It's a messy, imperfect solution, but it keeps hope alive and buys precious time for diplomacy to work. Negotiators will continue their marathon sessions, searching for common ground amid exhaustion and uncertainty. The stakes are enormous. National sovereignty, European stability, and the very future of the global order hang in the balance. Every decision made in these rooms will shape the security and prosperity of generations to come. Meanwhile, human suffering in Ukraine continues, and global economic turmoil grows. Families are displaced, cities are scarred, and uncertainty haunts financial markets. The world is watching, waiting for a resolution that can bring relief to those most affected. The next few days will shape the world for years to come. Decisions made now will echo through history, influencing not just politics, but the daily lives of people everywhere. The choices of Trump, Putin, and Zelensky will resonate far beyond their own legacies. Their actions will define not only their countries but the future of international relations and the hope for peace. Around the world, people watch anxiously, hoping these leaders choose the path toward peace and stability. The desire for an end to conflict unites people across borders and backgrounds. The final act is unwritten, but the need for resolution has never been greater. The world waits, holding its breath, for the next chapter to begin.